All right, welcome to Founder Fridays. You all know what it is by now. This is Founder Fridays, where we giving y'all access to knowledge, access to networking, access to capital. Those are the three main things that any entrepreneur on the planet is going to need to be successful. And we are all here, successful entrepreneurs, successful leaders in the entrepreneurial space. We've been doing this a long time, and we're here to bring you all the resources y'all need to be successful. So very excited for Founder Fridays. Very excited about the conversation today. We haven't had a conversation about content. So we want to talk about what is your content strategy? Doing content for the culture. That's what it's called today. And we have a very, very, very special guest, Miss Madeline Cruz. She's going to walk us through some really, really, really good information about how to think about your content strategy as you're building out your company. From a Founder Friday standpoint, this is a milestone for us because we're going into 2024. So I want you all to be thinking about how to hit Q1 running hard, all the stuff we've been talking about for the last few months on Founder Fridays. How do you implement that and get going strong for Q1 of 2024? This is a great, great, great time to do your strategizing. Everything's about to shut down for the holidays. So put these things into practice, get your notepad out, go into the lab, disappear for the next 3 weeks so you can come out swinging January 1 with these gems that Miss Madeline is going to hit us with today. All right, I'm going to throw it over to Keontae. He's going to introduce our special guest, and then we're going to get rocking.
Perfect. Appreciate you, Tremaine. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Founder Fridays. I hope y'all excited for today. We have a very, very special guest speaker today, Madeline Cruz. I actually met her at DC Startup Week through our CTO, Jeff. And so it just, everything clicked like it was supposed to. Super passionate about what she's working on. She's the CEO and founder of Cultura. She'll tell you more about that and more about herself. It's an amazing concept, and it's very aligned with what we do here at Venture for Them, Think PGC, and holistically Founder Fridays. She's bridging the gap for Black and Brown content creators. And so likewise, we're bridging the gap for startup founders, Black and Brown startup founders, HBCU founders. And so we know this is super critical because there's very systemic barriers, cultural barriers, a lot. And so we're both here to bridge the gap. And so she has some amazing feedback for y'all today. I'm even excited for it too, because I'm not big on TikTok, at least in terms of making TikTok creations, content creation. Now I'll watch it, I'll look at the few reviews, maybe try some of the dance moves. I'm not gonna show y'all no dance moves today, but Madeline, she said, hey, she called, I want to say you called yourself the TikTok whisperer. And I was like, I like that because I need that. I need to learn how to tap into that
Right.
target audience. And so that's super important because a lot of founders that we work with, they have amazing concepts. And we were just talking about this before we hopped in. They have amazing concepts, but visibility is everything. You can have the most amazing concept in the world, but if nobody knows that it exists, how can you get more customers? How can you get more sponsors, partners, and so forth? And so when we think about content creation, it is crucial. Some people like to add the mystique and work in silence. I was like that for the longest, but people aren't going to really support you and be able to fund you if they don't know you exist, right? And so Madeline is here to drop these gems for you today. I'm super excited for a beautiful soul, beautiful spirit, and super knowledgeable in this entire space. So without further ado, show her some love in the chat. Show her a warm welcome as we do it. Founder Fridays, very close-knit, very warm. Show some love for Madeline Cruz, CEO and founder of Cultura.
You guys are hyping me up so much. So I'm really excited. I'm even more hyped than I was when we started. So, hey, everyone, I'm Madeline. But I mean, honestly, I have a little deck. We're going to get through it. And it's a smaller group. So we're definitely going to have time for questions, more personalized questions for sure. But before we kick it off, though, I definitely want to thank Keontae and the Venture for Them team, because you guys, everybody's talking about like, oh my God, how underrepresented we are, how underfunded we are, but you guys are actually doing the work, right? You're doing the work, you're opening doors. So I really want to thank you guys for the work that you're doing, for opening doors for Black and Brown entrepreneurs, not just us, but the new generation as well. So I am very, very excited about today. And so today's workshop, I guess we want to call it that, is content creation for the culture. And content creation for the culture is more so about being yourself, no matter the platform that you're on. And yeah, we're definitely going to hit on TikTok because everyone's afraid of TikTok, right? We're definitely going to talk about that. But yeah, let's get into it. Hold on one second. How do I, oh, here. lost my screen. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And if you have any questions, definitely write them down or put them in the chat, and we are going to get into them. Since it's a smaller group, like I said, we will have a little more time for personalized information, right? So content creation for the culture. Again, I'm Madeline. You guys hype me up so much. I'm like, I'm gonna cry. Right. So I'm Madeline Cruz. And just a little bit of background about me. I'm a certified social media marketer and founder of Cultura, which is a content creation agency. We represent over 100 truly diverse content creators because, like you, we want to see real people represented in the brands that we love, right? While at the same time helping those brands reinvest back into the Black, Latino, and immigrant communities, right? And additionally, my goal really is to be able to bring Black and Brown creators to the forefront of the creator economy. Now, I have a really jam-packed session, right? But if you need a little bit more help, you can actually schedule a free call with me and we'll go all in on your social media. All right. So let's get into it. Now, the one thing, if you don't remember anything from today, the one thing I want you to remember is that followers do not equal sales. Okay. So if you're like, oh my God, I got to get to 10,000 followers because then I'm going to be raking in the money. You don't. All right. But if you do apply what you learned today, you will attract people that love your brand, your ideas, and are ready to buy from you, no matter if you have 10 followers or 100,000 followers. Okay. And without the need for you to change who you are, meaning you don't have to mask who you are. You don't have to code switch. You don't have to do any of that. But if you don't have a clear plan for where those followers are going after they hit follow, then I'm going to be honest, you're going to be wasting your time creating content. And we don't want you to waste your time. Your time is already very limited. You're running a business. You don't have time to waste. So how do you make the sales process faster? You build your email list. Your email list is really where you are going to have more direct contact with all of your prospects whenever you want, instead of relying on like Instagram or TikTok to decide when to show your content and who to show it to, right? Now, remember that likes and followers don't really matter. What matters are the actions that you're taking behind the scenes to keep them moving through your funnel and getting them closer to knowing about your brand, knowing about your offer or your product, whatever it is that you're doing, and getting them to really invest in you. All right. So how do you create content that's true to you? Not the, I got to put on my customer service voice you, but the real you. You keep it simple and you keep it real. The real you has to shine through whether you're on camera or not. I know a lot of people don't like being on camera, and that's okay. You don't have to be on camera. Now, as the expert in your field, because you are an expert, you are creating, you're building your brand, you're learning and you're adapting every single day, you're often leaning towards making content that is perfect. And perfect content is never going to see the light of day. It's never going to be published, right? So instead, you want to keep it simple. You want to stop overthinking your content and instead focus on how to make it 1% better every single day. And most importantly, because this builds on your credibility and relatability, all the while helping you stay consistent, even on those tough days where you're like, I don't really know what to create. I don't really feel like creating today, because you know that you, whether you're on camera or not, are creating content that's true to you, that's true to your brand. And you don't have to put on a facade or a fake persona to create. You can just simply create. When you take this approach, you're going to see results similar to what I have here, which is actually, this is a real result for one of our clients. Can you guys see that or no? I think I'm not sure. On my screen, it's glitching, but you might be able to see it.
I can see it.
Okay, awesome. So to be consistent on social media, you have to plan before you post. We talked about keeping it simple in terms of being you, right? But then you also have to keep it simple when it comes to planning, creating, and sharing content. You want to think about what type of content you're posting and where, how often. Is it 2 times a week? Is it 5 times a week? And what goals do you have for your social media? And then lastly, you shouldn't spend hours upon hours creating content every day, which is actually a complaint I get a lot from most of my clients. Is like, oh, I spend 5 hours creating one post. Absolutely not. That's too much time. You don't have that kind of time. And as entrepreneurs, as business owners, time is really money, you know? So you shouldn't be spending hours on end. Instead, what you want to do is break up your time planning, researching, creating, and then finally posting or sharing your content. When you take sort of this simple breakdown, you can plan as much content as you want, whether it's a week or a month's worth. And as you go, you're going to notice that that 5 hours that maybe takes you to create one post is going to be cut down by at least 90%. Again, you're aiming to get 1% better every single time that you post. And this is from start to finish, right? So then what is an example of a content creation workflow? Now, this is what I use in my social media agency, but your content creation workflow may look a little bit different, right? So it's as you create more and more, the process becomes a lot simpler. Now, if we look at, and we're going to talk about all these different content types in a second, but if you look at specifically vertical videos, you don't have to show your face, but at least you have an idea of where you need to start. Maybe you have the topic that you want to talk about, right? Maybe you want to turn that into a quick little video, like a point of view on TikTok or an Instagram reel. And then you just pair that video with like a trending sound. Or if you don't, you're just not feeling like showing your face that day, or you're just running a faceless brand, you can pretty much just do a voiceover. Talk about what it is that you want to get across without showing your face if you don't want to. And then you can edit the video, right? Edit the video, and you can either post it manually or even use some of the scheduling tools, which I'm going to be frank with you. If you're posting on TikTok, you should be posting manually because that's just how the app works. All right. So this content creation workflow is really an example of what it looks like for me as a social media agency owner, but it may look a little bit different for you. Again, keep it simple, because when you keep it simple, it doesn't deflate your motivation to be like, this is too hard. I don't want to do this. This is too much. I got to research. I got to plan. I got to like, just keep it simple, right? Whatever that means for you. And as you go, you're going to start building out your content bank. I think Venture for Them, you guys do an amazing job of kind of taking, you know, these short little form videos and repurposing them to like your social media. That works really well because you, as the CEO or as a founder, don't necessarily have a whole lot of time to sit and create video content yourself. But short little clips like this that you can publish on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, not only help you create content consistently, but they also help you build out your content bank. And a content bank, again, can be super simple. You know, it can be time-lapse videos, or even shots or photos of your workspace. It can be stock footage or user-generated content, depending on what kind of business you have. Or it can even be just, you know, what people don't necessarily talk about, which is considered C-roll, or footage that is just shot without intention. It could just be you went out for a coffee or you went out for lunch and you decided to pull out your phone and just pretty much do a time-lapse video. In building your content bank, that gives you an endless amount of videos or photos that you can use, even on those days where you're like, I have so much to do, but maybe with the plan that I have, knowing that the topics that I want to talk about in my content bank, I can get something out in minutes versus wasting hours creating one post. So if we talked about followers, the second thing I want you to remember is that it's not about going viral, but instead it's social media is really a long-term game, right? So we want to be consistent, and we want to create consistent content that moves you forward every single day. Whether that is you're gaining more brand awareness, you're making more connections, you're building your network, you're starting more conversations behind the scenes, whatever that is, you need to keep moving forward every single day. An example of this, an example of a realistic goal that you can set for your social media is, I want to increase my views. If say your views right now are 500 views a month, I want to increase my views by 30% before the end of the month. By knowing where you're starting or having that baseline, you know, hey, this is how much I've moved from my starting point, and this is where I want to go in, say, 6 months from now, right? And then additionally, what are some metrics that you should be tracking when you're on social media? Again, no matter the platform, right? You should be looking at views, definitely reach, right? Is your content being seen by the people that you want to see it? And the engagement. This is the total number of people that liked commented, shared, or even saved your content? And then overall, what has been your growth? Whether that growth is, I have 200 new LinkedIn connections, or I have 50 new followers on Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is. And then ultimately, because you are a business owner, right, you want to track how is that traffic, or where is that traffic coming from? And should you, say, for example, should you continue posting on Twitter if Twitter just isn't giving you any traffic, right? So be mindful of what metrics you're tracking, where you're starting, so that you can, on a month or a quarterly basis, determine if you need to keep going, right? If you need to keep going, if there's anything that you need to change, what's working, what isn't working, so that you can adapt. Again, we talked about making sure that you're creating content that fits in, that is simple, and that doesn't take you a whole lot of time. In creating content, you also need to learn how to adapt and be you, right? Be you. So then let's talk a little bit about what makes good content. And I have a couple of examples here. We're going to dive into each and every single one. So the first one is, or let me backtrack. Good content is when it's personalized for the viewer and makes it clear on what they should do next, right? So in these examples, if we're looking at our first example, which is a little bit harder to see because it's a slideshow on TikTok, this brand is actually promoting their black seed oil supplement or something. And so the way that they do it is they did it in a very, very personalized, very relatable way. Instead of saying, hey, buy my black seed oil right now, instead they said, here are some of the products that you need to be like a glowing baddie or something like that, right? That's kind of a relatable type of hook that they use to draw that person in. And their product wasn't even the first item, but once the person started sliding and started seeing all the recommendations, it felt like they were talking to a friend. It felt like, hey, guess what, Keontae? I have the top 5, skincare items that I want you to try. That's exactly how I felt in this carousel slide, right? And not only did they made their product the sort of top item to say, hey, you really need this one. If you got all 3 of them, you're definitely going to need this one because it's going to make all of the rest of the items work 100% better, right? So, and at the same time, they also pose a sense of urgency for them to buy now before the product sells out. This video, as you can see, it got, is it like almost 700,000 views, if I'm looking at that correctly? 700,000 likes, excuse me. And I believe it got over 2 or 3 million views. So can you imagine the type of traffic that they got from that single post that is not telling the buyer or the viewer to buy, but rather is making it more relatable, more, easier for them to share. It just makes the sales process less resistant. And that's exactly what you want when you're creating content. You don't want it to feel like you're selling something. So then our second creator is really showing a day in her life while modeling and describing the outfit that she has linked in her shop. This is a new way that creators can earn money, and that you, if you're a shop owner, can link your products into TikTok. You're able to just pretty much talk about the product, pretty much display the product, link it, and then people with one click can easily buy, just like they did in her video. Her video also performed really, really well. I think it did over 200,000 likes. Again, if we're really looking at probably a conversion, she's probably achieving maybe anywhere between 1% to 5% of those 200,000 engagements in actual traffic, in actual links or clicks that she's receiving. And then the last one was a very, very simple, probably didn't even last more than 10 seconds. It was just a notebook being flipped, paired with a trending audio that's happening on TikTok, right? And so this type of content or this type of trending audio, it tends to give your content a boost, and it works really well for faceless brands because you can just showcase your product paired with a trending audio and maybe a relatable text overlay without necessarily having to say, hey, here's 10 ways that you can use this journal. No, just showcase the product. It makes it simpler, it makes it easier. And if people really like it, they're going to buy it. You don't have to sell all the time. You can do so in a way that is very subconscious and that feels a lot more relatable to the viewer, no matter on the platform you're on. Of course, right now we're talking about TikTok, but this pretty much applies to any platform. Then the last one is a really bad example of what not to do, right? And so this is clearly an ad, and it's an ad by Jiffy Lube, I think. And the main difference in the 4 examples that we saw, and the 3 other examples that we saw, is that the paid ad by Jiffy Lube actually underperformed the 3 other organic posts done by brands and creators. And theirs was organic, while Jiffy Lube actually paid money, and I'm pretty sure they're paying a pretty good amount of money for that, right? So why are the organic posts, or what's often referred to as user-generated content, performing best? It's because they don't scream, buy me now, and they're native to TikTok. It doesn't disrupt that user experience, especially when you're on TikTok. If you're a TikTok user and you're scrolling, you will most likely scroll right past an ad, because it feels like an ad. It disrupts the fun that you're having on TikTok. It just disrupts the flow of your overall consumption of content on the app. So when we look at the good and bad content types, what you want to look at is, I want to make sure that I'm creating content that is personalized, and I want to make sure that it doesn't look like an ad. It should not look like an ad. It should look like content. It should look like content for the app that you are on, whether that's LinkedIn, TikTok, or Instagram. And if you didn't know, because again, we're talking a little bit more about TikTok today, 64% of users actually buy something after seeing it on TikTok first. And they drive a lot of traffic for consumer packaged goods like journals and drinks and things like that. Now, I can teach a whole other class about like how TikTok works and all this other stuff, but right now we're just going to go into a little bit of basics on why it's the best app for building your brand in 2024. So TikTok, by the numbers, is a lot of information, but I'm going to go right through it. Whether you're the face of the brand or not, 76% of users on TikTok really like it when you create content that speaks to their interest, whatever that interest is. And when you think about it, when you're developing your content pillars or you're talking about your brand, you already have an idea of who your ideal persona or who your ideal client is, right? And so those interests, their interests, when you're creating content, should reflect in your video content, in your carousels, in your blogs, whatever it is. And then as we notice, the app has actually driven over $1 billion. This was at the beginning of the year, over $1 billion in in-app consumer spending. And now that they launched a TikTok shop, we can expect that that's going to grow pretty quickly. And it's going to make it so much easier for brands and creators alike to be able to make more money on the app without having to rely on, say, sponsored posts or even getting enough views to make maybe a couple cents, right? So then additionally, everyone on TikTok is spending an average of 95 minutes per day. And if you're on TikTok, you already know that it's a pretty addictive app. 90 minutes is going to feel like 5 minutes to you because you're just scrolling. It's an infinite scroll of funny stuff, right? Because the way that it works is that not only does it take into account the likes or the comments or the shares that are happening on that video, but it also takes into account the amount of time that you spend watching that video. So even if you don't like it, you don't interact with it, then TikTok already knows this person, Madeline, spent 10 seconds watching this cat video. I'm going to give her 5 more cat videos. And it happens in a split second. That's why your feed changes so quickly and it becomes so addictive, is because the algorithm or the app tends to recommend things super, super quickly based on the activity that's happening in real time. So then we look at, I work predominantly with Black and Latino business owners, right? And the app, TikTok itself, is actually over 61% Black and Latino. The majority of the consumers there are Black and Latino, but they're also between the ages of 20 and 39, which is kind of a little bit different about what people think of TikTok. They think it's just teens and dancing and lip syncing. These are people who have jobs. These are people who have money, and they are ready for you to start creating content. They want to see you. Trust me, if they can scroll through 100 videos in 10 minutes, they have time to see your video and to see your content, right? So then we saw a little bit in our previous examples, we want to make sure that we're creating content that is relatable and that does not feel like an ad, because that user is responsible in telling the app, based on their interactions, based on, the watch time, the likes, the saves, the shares, if they want to continue seeing your content. And then their decision tells the app whether they should show your content to more people or not. If I am seeing a cat video and I don't like it and I swipe quickly past it, then that cat video is probably going to just go in the dump in terms of TikTok, right? They're not going to show it to anybody else. But if I'm like, wow, this video is really good, and it's just a whole minute and 30 seconds of just a cat playing around, and I'm just sitting there fully watching it, then it's going to tell the algorithm, okay, this video should be shown to more people. This is keeping the interest of the viewer. And what TikTok wants is for you to be on the app. They don't want you to go to Instagram. They don't want you to go to YouTube. They want you on the app so they have more opportunities to show you more content, to show you more products, and to keep you buying, as we've seen in the over $1 billion that they've already made this year alone. All right, so we talked about making good content, not ads, right? But how or where do I even get ideas for making content if I'm just starting out? So one of the ways that you can, even if you don't see yourself creating content in video form, I can promise you that you can still grow your brand without ever needing to lip sync, dance, or do the awkward little pointing that some people do, which I'm going to be honest, please stop doing it. It's 2023. Please stop. So before you hit post, though, it is crucial for you to decide what type of content suits you best, because you're going to be creating a lot of it. And if you're a newbie entrepreneur or a newbie founder, oftentimes you don't have a whole lot of cash to hire a social media, manager, or a social media agency, or a content creator. You're doing a lot of this stuff yourself. So decide what you are really good at or what you really enjoy, because you're going to be creating a lot of it. And ask yourself, right? What is it that I enjoy? Is it writing longer blog posts and then maybe repurposing them into like smaller bite-sized chunks like text or carousel posts? Or maybe even just a quick little TikTok with some text overlay? Or maybe if I have like interviews or a podcast, can I quickly chop up that podcast or maybe that text from that interview and get a quote or two where I can put it on the TikTok or put it on LinkedIn or maybe put it on a single graphic on Instagram? What is it that I am comfortable creating on a daily basis? Because again, social media content creation is a long game, right? And then honestly, everything can be content. But when you decide what you're going to start with, and some examples of this can be blogs, newsletters, interviews that you may have done in the past, whether they're recorded or text or articles, and then maybe even common questions that you get in your DMs or that you've had in conversations that you've gotten from like networking events. All of this can be turned into video content. It can be turned into, you're maybe just chopping up the video, or maybe you're saying, hey, I want to expand a little bit on, for me, it would be, I want to talk a little bit more about why, POC creators are underpaid in the industry, right? I can record a 20 or 30-second clip talking about that, post it on TikTok. And then I would repurpose that to Instagram. And then if I want, because maybe LinkedIn is a little bit more professional and I don't want to show my face on there, then maybe I'll just take that video, what I said, transcribe it, and add it as a text post on LinkedIn. And we can see some of the examples here that I've shown you is you can take, starting with TikTok, throw it on Instagram, repurpose it to LinkedIn. You can start with LinkedIn, create a carousel for Instagram, and then maybe even create a carousel for TikTok. Whichever platform that you decide to be on, you can easily repurpose to another platform when you decide that number one piece is what is the long form type of content that I can create consistently and continue to create that will then give me more content to repurpose onto other social media platforms. All right, so what are some content pillars that you can begin that you can use when creating content? We don't have a whole lot of time, but here are some examples for a tech company, a fashion brand, or even an educational platform. Content pillars are really just themes that inform what type of content you can create on a consistent basis. It's not going to be say the same thing, but rather it's an overall theme or an overall umbrella of some of the topics or subtopics that you can find for your brand that are of interest to your viewer, because again, they determine whether other people get to see your content, right? So as you start creating content, you want to keep in mind that you should be using, especially in 2024, you should not be relying on trends alone. A lot of the original audio is actually performing way better than any trends you could do. And if you're building a personal brand, honestly, just getting on camera, hitting record, and maybe just talking, about maybe a common question that you got, or maybe just some of that knowledge that already lives inside of you, tends to be what works really well. Think of it, if you're building, or if you're not shy to get on camera, think of it as recording video in a way that you would be talking to a friend on FaceTime. Super, super simple, right? And then you also want to test short and long form content. So yeah, while long form content is performing really, really well, you also, as you're starting, it may be that you're not there, you're not at that, what TikTok is asking for viewers, for engagement rate, you may not be there. So test that short form content to get your viewership up, your engagement rate up, so that then as you're creating more longer form content, it's being pushed out to more and more people. So, and then the last part is hashtags. You should be using hashtags and keywords and SEO keywords on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn, wherever you are, to tell the app what your post is about. Because every single app, no matter where you are, no matter the type of content that you're uploading, is going to try to determine, it's going to read sort of that information on that video or that graphic or that photo to try to figure out what it is, right? And number one, to make sure it doesn't violate their community guidelines, but number two, to make sure that they can show it to an audience that is interested in what you are posting about. So make sure that you're not skipping anything, skipping those last two in terms of making sure that you're using a caption, that you're using keywords, that you're using hashtags to tell the app how to categorize your content and who they should be showing it to. A few other ways that you should be setting up your account to be found, and this applies to TikTok, Instagram, or LinkedIn, is to make sure that you're adding searchable keywords in your handle and your bio. And think of searchable keywords as like the very simple way that a potential follower could be looking for your services. Not the I know how to say it way, the technical way, but the way that a potential customer in the most simplest way would be searching on Instagram, TikTok, or LinkedIn, right? And then you also want to use, when you're as much as possible in the beginning, you want to use as many as the in-app features, because this type of content that is recorded within the app tends to perform a little bit better than anything that may have been edited outside, say on Adobe or whatever else is, whatever other editing software is out there. And then lastly, again, using the keywords, you want to just tell the app what it is you're posting, but then most importantly, you want to curate your feed. And curating your feed just pretty much means spend 5 or 10 minutes scrolling on your feed and telling Instagram, TikTok, or LinkedIn what your interests are. Not me, who loves cats, but rather me, the social media manager or content creator who is looking for other content creators, right? I like content from Latino creators. I like content from Black creators. I like content from POC creators. I like content that talks about wage disparities, right? So tell it the type of interest that you have, because often they mimic very closely the interest that your audience has. And this not only helps you have a more curated or personalized feed, but it also builds, or it also tells the app, again, who they should be showing your content to, which again is super, super, super important. So now we're going into what are the top platforms for 2024. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but I want to make sure that we're getting in some questions, right? So before we close out, I know you're probably wondering, what social media platform should I be posting on, right? Do I need to secure my handle for Snapchat and Facebook and Twitter and Threads and Be Real and whatever else is out there? No, you don't. You don't. So the top 3 platforms for me, and I recommend this as a content creator and social media agency owner that's been doing this for over 5+ years, going into 2024, the top 3 apps that I recommend are going to give you the best return are going to be Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn in no particular order. And that's because based on the examples I've given you here, it depends on what your goal is for social media, right? So if you're building a brand, maybe you're building a personal brand, or maybe you want to sell a product, it will really depend. LinkedIn, if you're selling a product, will probably not be the best for you because people are not used to seeing product-based type of content on there. What they are most commonly seeing are founders talking about the journey, talking about building their brand, talking about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that's happening and getting that product to market. But if you are, say, building a personal brand, you can pretty much take it to LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. You can do some of these videos where you're talking or just sharing your knowledge about the industry that you're working in or the brand that you're building. And it works across TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So again, it's going to be really up to you as to what your social media goal is and where you want to consistently create content for. Again, I hate that word consistently because I feel like everybody says it. Like the key is consistency. Okay, we get it. But it is consistency, right? So understand how you can keep creating content consistently by knowing what your strengths are and knowing what you can create easily in a very simple manner in a few minutes and consistently create week after week, day after day, month after month, right? So do I need to be on every social media platform? Absolutely not. What I'm going to tell you is that you need to pick two to be on so that you can create content specifically for those two platforms. And often between these three, they're pretty interchangeable, right? So for example, I can do an Instagram post, a carousel post on Instagram, and I can take that caption or even the text that I added on my carousel and just turn it into a text post on LinkedIn, right? And then I can take maybe that entire post, throw it onto ChatGPT if I'm doing that, and say, hey, give me a quick little talking head script, and I could just record that video, right? 20, 30 seconds, super simple. Again, choose the two platforms that one you may already be familiar with or that you have a little bit of time investing and curating and learning a little bit more about how it works, and then forget the rest of them. Don't worry about the rest of them, okay? Because if they're not giving you any return, if you're thinking I have to create content for TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, you're going to give up. You're going to burn out. And we don't want you to burn out. You need to be consistently creating content, getting your brand out there, connecting with new people, building out that community. And you're not going to do it by trying to keep up with the trends and topics and communities and type of content that 10 social media platforms need. Pick two, get great at creating content on those two, and then decide if maybe do I have the time to add another one or two. But my thing is no, don't. Pick two, gauge from there. Do I have time to add another one? And which one is giving me the most traffic? Which again, the most important thing is going to be how are you funneling those? We started with how are you funneling those followers into a more intimate setting where you can talk about your offers, where you can talk about your products. So the goal with content creation, again, oh my God, consistently, right? You have to create consistently, no matter the platform, while always relating your content back to your offers or to your products. And of course, having a little fun along the way. What's a little fun? You know, you can't just be like, this is work. Oh, I got to do this. It is work and you do have to do it, but content creation can be really fun if you follow a process for what works for you, given your business building, responsibilities, and also your personal life. Because for many of us just starting out for Black brand entrepreneurs, it's harder for us to just say, yes, I'm working full time in my business. So take into consideration what your other responsibilities are when you're creating your content, how often you want to post, and how much you want to post across social media. So I know we don't have and we can't cover every single little detail today. And I know it's Friday and everybody's like, all right, Madeline, wrap it up. I'm ready to go. I actually have a content creation guide, which is absolutely free. Okay, you can grab it in the link in bio. I'll drop my website. It's absolutely free. You just put in your little email and your name. And this is going to give you some of the top tools for content creation that are going to help you from idea to scheduling, maybe even just some low-cost social media management, not shooting myself in the foot as I do own a social media agency, but some low-cost options for you that are going to help you find ideas for your content, plan out your content, schedule it. And even if you have a little extra money, hire somebody else to do it. And then it also has a free library of, I want to say over 10 specially curated videos that walk you through the process of content creation, in-app editing, and all the other good stuff that you need to know on TikTok, Instagram, and I want to say Facebook, even though I hate Facebook, Facebook as well. All right. So definitely download that. And I'm going to give it back to you guys. Definitely excited to hear any questions. Maybe we can just free flow, talk about a little bit more about what it means to be a content creator in 2024. Thank you, guys.
Man, this has been dope. Let's give it up for Madeline. This has been amazing. All right. I got a bunch of questions, Madeline. So they're gonna come in. I gotta ask you at least this one question. How do you feel? And you don't got to get into all of the politics behind it and everything, but what's your feelings behind the whole Twitter X situation from a content creation? Like I said, now you don't got to get into the politics, but is it still a viable platform for what we're talking about?
No, no. And I'll tell you why, because as a marketer, every single brand is pulling out of Twitter, and I refuse to call it X. All right. Every single brand is pulling out of Twitter. They're pulling their advertising dollars because they know that the platform is pretty much dying. It's similar to Facebook, right? And I don't want to say Facebook is entirely dead. There's still a very good community there, but you had to have gotten started years ago. Same for Twitter. If you started years ago and you build your community there, you probably still have an audience, right? But a lot of people, a lot of brands, a lot of individuals, a lot of people who just like being on Twitter for fun are leaving Twitter based on not only what's happening on the platform, but a lot of the restrictions that are being applied right now based on who's there. So no. Threads might be a good choice though. Threads.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's growing and it hit 100 million users pretty fast. And it's just, in most ways, it's similar to Twitter. And if you already have followers on Instagram, they auto-populate. So anytime somebody signs up, so say, for example, you have 1,000 followers on Instagram and 500 of them are on Threads, you'll automatically have 500 followers on Threads. So
nice.
Forget X. I don't.
Nice. All right, y'all got questions? Jump in. I got one more while y'all thinking of questions. I know Keontae gonna jump in with a question in a second.
I gotta hop in.
I'm gonna ask one more, Keontae. I'm gonna take over. I'm gonna ask one more.
No
All right, so you talked about because I'm not a content person, but I'm a business guy, So I tell people all the time, the first thing you started with, just because you're getting likes and follows and all that is not sales. That is so different from sales. And I always encourage people to get off of these platforms that are controlled by algorithms and stuff like that, and get to email, get to things that are much more direct to talking to your customer, not through a platform, because they can change one algorithm or do one thing and you locked out, with your particular audience. So how would you suggest people start that transition? I mean, because you think about a funnel and all of that, but if you got, I don't know, a few thousand followers on one of the platforms, how do you start getting them off of the platform and start talking to them more direct?
Keep it in rotation. So it can be as simple as you sharing a story every week, twice a week, and saying, hey, for insider tips or exclusive, whatever, sign up for my email list and make it easy, because let's be real, we're lazy. I'm not going to go to your link in bio if you tell me, but if you put the link right in my face, I'm going to tap it. Right. So make it easy for them. The second way that I usually, when I'm working with brands, the second way that I say, oh, they're like, I have 2,000 followers, but I only have actually, I don't even have an email list. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? Right. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to build out a DM sequence. Right. And so that DM sequence is, and this applies to pretty much LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, wherever. TikTok is a little bit more restrictive in DMs or messages, but it works the same. So your DM sequence should be you're welcoming that follower into your community, or you're saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry, all this time has passed and we never introduced ourselves, right? That's one I use often when I'm just like, oh my God, I did not send a DM, right? Or somebody slipped through the cracks. And then you could just say, hey, Keontae, thanks so much for joining our community. We are about A, B, and C. Keep it super simple, super clean. We don't have time to read 50 paragraphs. Super simple, super clean. Be like, we would love to have you in our insider or exclusive community. Drop the link for them to join their email. Then if they respond yes or no, whatever it is, then you continue that DM sequence based on their response. The idea that followers are going to equate to sales is one that I would love to shout from the rooftops. Please stop, right? Because we have to get the followers onto a more intimate setting, like I was talking about, where you can talk to them about your offers, about your products, about what you're doing behind the scenes, because that makes it seem a little bit more personal. It doesn't seem it's hard. Like, it's easy for me to sell you something if you're standing in front of me, but we're behind screens. It's very impersonal, right? So let them know as soon, and it's not going to be like seconds after they follow you, but maybe a day or two, be like, hey, Keontae, thanks so much for, coming to our community. Here's what we do. We would love for you to join our email list. And then on the other side, have that funnel built out. What I also say for my clients is we're starting with that DM sequence, right? We're welcoming them to our community. We're telling them about joining our email list. And once they do, they need to, again, follow a sequence. You're coming into my email community, but what's the incentive? I'm giving you content creation guide, right? So it's gonna have that funnel where it welcomes you into the email community. It tells you maybe some of the stuff that you missed, and then maybe email number 2 is going to talk a little bit more about your journey, right? Why you decided to start your company, or what inspired you to create that t-shirt or product or whatever. And then number 3 is a simple, straight facts, like, here's how you can buy, right? So keep it simple, keep it very personalized. You don't have to overthink any of this. It's about systems and processes, really, so that you can build out those followers, you can move them into a more intimate setting, an audience that you actually own, and are not relying so much on TikTok and Instagram. And somebody said, did you see MySpace? I miss MySpace, but yeah,
I used
none
to
of that.
I guess I'm a little older than you guys. I was totally on MySpace.
Wait, no, I was on MySpace too. I was like, I miss MySpace.
Oh, you miss it. Oh, I got
miss
you.
it, yeah.
That was like the good old. It was easy back then.
Yeah. What was it? Top 5, top 8?
Top 7.
Yeah. I would just move people around just to piss them off.
So as you take somebody to top 2, to top 3 or 4, they are calling you like right when you're getting the call, like, what happened? What happened?
Like, call me back after 9, though.
Yes, yes. If Bay wasn't number 1 or number 2, like that was a problem. Like,
It's crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, let me hop in real quick. First, I got to say this session was fire.
Yeah.
I'm motivated to get my act together with TikTok. I already told you earlier I was no good on it, but I'm inspired to get better with the TikTok.
Send me your TikTok and I will bully you into an influencer by 2024.
I might need it. I might need to push. You're the MVP. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I did want to piggyback off the prior question because we were talking a lot about personalization. And so you talked a bit about like faceless brands. And so I was always under this, I guess, misconception that, faceless brands won't prosper as much, like people want to like kind of see the face of the company or connect with the team and this and that. And I still kind of feel that way in some regard. But then when I see like how different influencers prosper on TikTok, right? A lot of them are faceless. They just go around trying different restaurants or different products, and you never see their face or any of that. You just, kind of associate them with, the value that they're adding to your experience, maybe prior to trying that product, trying that food, and so forth. So I guess in terms of like faceless brands, what's your thoughts on that? Do you feel like they are less effective, or like in today's structure of TikTok, they can be as equally effective as that like face out in the front, team out in the front, more kind of personal brands in a way? I guess what's your thoughts on that?
So I'll do it in 2 parts. You can be the evangelist of your brand without being the face of your brand. Okay. So you can definitely shout from the rooftops, my brand is the best thing out there, and this is why, without showing your face. But in the sort of new influencer era that we're in, it does seem like a lot of people, like, you do have to, as a founder, you do have to like get on TikTok and get on Instagram and get on LinkedIn, right? In order to build your brand. You don't have to. The faceless brands can thrive really, really well, especially on TikTok, but it's all about relatability, right? So maybe you take what some of the common asks or questions, or some of the challenges that your audience is having that moved you to create this solution for them, and turn that into relatable content. Because when we're scrolling on social media, whether we like to admit it or not, oftentimes we're looking for a solution, we're looking for some sort of distraction, we're looking for something that is going to take us away from whatever it is that we're experiencing or working through at that moment. So no, you don't have to be the face of your brand. You can create a very successful faceless brand, if you will, if you keep that customer, your customer in mind. And don't generalize, don't generalize and be like, yeah, I want 1 million customers. Obviously we all do, but think about your one customer, because when you think about that one customer and you're creating for that one customer, you're talking about the challenges, or maybe you're presenting that solution to them, then it becomes more personal and it becomes less resistant for them to want to learn about your brand and about your product and to want to hit that follow button and then ultimately want to buy from you. So yeah, as founders, if you are comfortable, like I said, if you're not comfortable creating on, recording videos on camera, that's okay. That's okay. You can still talk all about your brand without showing your face. Like you talked about some of the influencers that are not showing their face and going to restaurants and doing, these food reviews. You can do the same in a similar way. You can take that video that you recorded on one of your business trips and say, hey, you guys, I was on don't say, hey, you guys, you only have 2 seconds, right. But be like, start like it's a mid-sentence conversation. You're on FaceTime and do a voiceover, right? And then, or do a text on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be, I have to create, I have to get out there. Because if you're not a content creator and you just know, as a founder myself, I don't have time to create. I like creating content. I like being the face of the brand. But if that's not you, then don't. You can still talk all about your brand and like be the evangelist, but you don't have to be the face of the brand.
Yeah,
it's a long-winded answer, but yeah. But that's a no.
That's definitely a gem. Yeah. We work with a lot of founders, and like they don't like the spotlight. They're just passionate about what they're building, and so that's a gem. That as long as the connection is there, you're still relatable and connect with the audience, you can still prosper. So
yeah, you can. And the other thing, the last thing I want to say is that you shouldn't feel compelled to share about your personal life as you're building your brand. Okay, I do think that a lot of oversharing happens on social media, right? But me personally, I'm a very private person. People do think that like because you're on social media that you're going to share every single challenge or everything about your life or your family. You don't have to. You can keep it what I like to call sort of personally professional, where you talk about your brand or you talk about the challenges or the journey of being a founder, building a brand, without necessarily having to go into detail about sharing about your personal life. Because when you open up that can of worms into your personal life, it just makes it easier for trolls to be like, oh, you know what? I saw that you bought this, whatever, right? Like, no, like just keep it personally professional. Talk about what relates to the brand, always creating content in a way that relates to your brand, to your offers, to your offering, whatever it is. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing about your personal life, don't. Actually, I recommend that you shouldn't. You should not be sharing about your personal brand as you're building your brand as a founder. And if you don't want to be the face of the brand, don't. Right? But you can still create content in a way that's relatable when you keep in mind that one customer, your ideal customer.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Last thing, Madeline, before we jump off, how can the people find you on social media?
You can come visit me here. I live in Bowie. You guys can visit Social con Cultura. I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but we are a content creation agency. We represent over 100 Black and brown content creators, Black, brown, LGBTQ plus size, real diverse creators, right? And so what we're working on is offering hyper local content, meaning that you can hire a creator that's in your city. I think many of us are here in the DMV, right? But we have creators in about 20 plus cities right now. And so they can hire creators to say, hey, I need content for this event, or I need somebody to come record this content for me. Whatever your content needs are, definitely sign up to be an early adopter. Or if you're a content creator and you have, some followers, you have over 10K followers, 20K followers, definitely join us. The other way that you can get in contact with me, like I said, and I think I had a link, is for you guys to book a complimentary call with me. And hopefully my calendar is updated. I believe it is. And so you can book a complimentary call with me and we can talk all about your special, social media needs for sure. So I'm going to drop that link there and you guys can also grab your content creation. Actually, Keontae, I'm happy to send it to you and then we can, share that on like your email or the replay, whichever you prefer. Yeah. So, but follow us on Social Con Cultura. It is Social Con Cultura on TikTok, Instagram, and I think Madeline Cruz on LinkedIn.
Man, that was a lot, but it was needed. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, Madeline, for your time today. So honored to have you here. You dropped so many gems and really gave us some good information on how to be successful business people on social media. Like, you can't get around social media and do business these days, but how do you do it right? How do you do it properly? How do you do it with the proper strategies? Like, that's what you gave us tonight. So really appreciate your time. You want to close us out, Keontae?
Yeah, definitely. I just want to say, Madeline, we appreciate you. We love your passion. The insight that you gave was phenomenal. Make sure y'all go into those links, connect with her. Make sure you go set up that chat, that consultation. I know I definitely will be, so I can get my TikTok to the next level. And so we appreciate you. This has been wonderful. And so all in all, I hope everybody's inspired to go into the weekend and even prep for Q1, just hitting the ground running with creating some new content to take your business to the next level in 2024. So all that to say, we appreciate you, Madeline. Please drop it in the chat, show her some love, connect with her, connect with on Cultura and all of that. We appreciate you guys and everybody have a great weekend. Happy Friday.
See y'all next Friday.
Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. All right. Thank you again for having me. This was really, really fun.
It was a pleasure.
All right. Take care, you guys.
Thank you.